We are back for another edition of Unplugged, 6 rounds down, and the season has gone pear-shaped, certainly in the early stages. There is a long way to play and a lot that can be redeemed, but a lot of the concerns that we had a week ago out of the Richmond game certainly remain. It was always going to be tough heading across to Adelaide, and the group dominated the first quarter, but it felt very much like a 2018/19 game where St Kilda would often dominate inside 50s and territory, but have no way of hitting targets or converting when they did so. And they were dominating without dominating, if that makes sense. You thought, well, they should be in the game, but they looked stuffed at the same time. You thought, well, there's no way back. And it proved to be the case. It was a rather ugly 5-goal game where, they conceded 14. It wasn't a particularly entertaining game for anybody probably to watch it. Even for Port Adelaide, it was sort of a pedestrian old affair where it was over fairly early. So 2 and 4, we scratch our heads. It was a difficult period a few weeks ago where we thought, geez, they had to win at least one of them. They won the first one against West Coast, and then you're hoping that they'd be a little bit better over the next couple and be competitive at the very least. But it's crunch time against Hawthorn. It's a game they have to win. Otherwise, the season spirals completely out of control. There's a couple of little injury concerns. Daniel McKenzie got suspended. Brad Hill nursing an injury out of last week, who would have been teetering on the brink of selection in any case. But we look ahead to Hawthorn very, very shortly. Our special guest will be one of our finer players during the halcyon days of 2008, 9, 10, 11-ish. And that was Sam Gilbert, who was a fine servant of the club, running out of defence, taking intercept marks during that period. So he'll join us a little bit later on. But H, as we welcome you, first of all, another really frustrating day watching the Saints. And unfortunately, a few weeks ago, we thought those days were behind us. But, we're back scratching our head.
Yeah, it was a game that was, before the season started, you sort of put it down as a 50-50. After last week, you're sort of going, well, let's just hope we're competitive. And then you get to quarter time thinking, we've been competitive, but just couldn't finish. And that's where they left it. From quarter time, pretty much that was it. It just didn't feel like the hunger wasn't there. There was no, let's get ourselves back in this game. Let's make something of it. It just sort of got to quarter time after a whole lot of effort, and yeah, we just dropped off the completely. And as we've been saying in a few places, it's not the fact that we're losing, it's just the way we're losing at the moment. You go through a season losing 15, 16 games in a season, and there's effort every week, and you sort of think, well, we just weren't good enough. But it just doesn't feel like they're actually out there playing. It's a lot to be lifted from where they are at the moment to get back to being competitive again. And if the next few weeks are no better, then that's gonna be a long season.
It was a really bizarre first quarter. I mean, even from the beginning, you look at that incredible Jack Higgins goal, and there was very little celebration. There was no energy. There was no one rushed to him. Yeah, he didn't even look happy with it. He looked kind of almost looked like he'd kicked it out on the full. Like there was just nothing. There was no happiness, no celebration, no elation, no nothing from something you'd expect when you kick a goal like that. Especially when you're the underdog and you travelled to a fortress of sorts. It was just really, really strange. And I think at quarter time, I think we were plus 12 in the inside 50 differential, and we were down 1-4 to 4-1. And it felt like we were competitive, but part of me felt like we weren't competitive at all. And it was just a really strange feeling. And then it just fell apart after that. And just really hard to work out what's changed, from last year.
It felt strange, as you say, looking at the first quarter unfold, and halfway through the quarter, we're double the inside 50s. We've had the same amount of shots. We're only a goal down, but you're watching, you're thinking, we're no hope of winning this game. And it was weird because we had all the territory, all the play, but you're like, we're not winning this, no way. And I guess it wasn't as painful as, I think, 2004 in the prelim. We had 19 inside 50s to 5 in the first quarter against Port Adelaide that night, and it was 4 goals each. This one wasn't as consequential as that one, unfortunately. But it was a really ugly sort of a game. And I guess you compare that to the triumph of last year in Port Adelaide, where we were up and we came through, and it was a really significant win. And I think every St Kilda supporter probably looked at each other and thought, geez, we're all right here. And we might be in for something. And then you fast forward 12 months on and you're uncompetitive in the same fixture. And it probably shows how far the group's dropped away. There wasn't a lot to like really through the middle. Only 2 players had 20 possessions and they had a lot more than 20 possessions. So I think Sev Ross had 31. Jack Steele had about 27. And then the next most was 17 or 18, which was Crouch or someone of that ilk.
Clark and Crouch, yep.
Yeah, that's
Lou
right.
Howard had 17 as well, out of the back line.
Yeah, so to have 2 blokes with 20 possessions in a game is clearly a really ordinary. I mean, the hitting up of the key forward, so we had little out of King. Membry was relatively quiet, not our worst, and obviously the Smalls couldn't get near it. Not all their fault this time. But yeah, it did have all the hallmarks of 18, 19. And I guess that's the thing, you start comparing it to other results. And I know Brett Ratton did say in the presser that maybe we haven't adjusted to the longer quarters and the pace of the game now with the man on the mark, but we're going to want to catch up on that reasonably quick.
It's a strange one because during the preseason, all the talk was that we had adjusted really well to the man on the mark and that we were one of the teams, kind of finding an advantage through that period. And I think in round 1, we kind of all looked at it and went, we're actually pretty good at this. We can move the ball quickly, even in that sort of conditions, wet and windy and wild and muddy and whatever in Sydney. And we still, moved the ball quickly. We chased and tackled. We ran. We were direct. We were attacking, and it has fallen completely away since then. And I don't know what's happened, but it looks like the entire squad's confidence is shot, and I don't know how that happens. You're right in terms of looking back at that kind of 18-19 period where our fallback position was kick it long down the line and hope for a contest. There's no hold on to it for an extra second and make someone run to you to provide an option. There's no wait for someone to run past and provide a handball to advantage or look to switch or anything like that. It's just take a mark or win the ball and kick it long down the line. And that's it. That seems to be our game plan at the moment. And I don't know how this has happened because you look at the way we moved the ball and the way that we spread and ran last season. That was the hallmark of our game, was our spread and our run and our ball movement. And I don't understand how the league, almost league-wide, has become a bit more attacking. How have we become more defensive and more stagnant?
I think it was more the preseason game that we sort of looked at and went, okay, this rules. We're moving the ball to the player coming through the middle of the field and giving it off to him and just opening the field up to what's in front of us to give that lead to the forward, give them the open space, give them the kick straight to him. But all of a sudden we're getting the mark and then sitting back and going, okay, who are we going to kick it to? There's none of those players running past. There's no these short options. They've disappeared. I don't know whether they're not working hard enough to get to the open space and they're just sort of, I don't know, playing like a zone offense almost. It's sort of like, oh, this is where I am. This is where if the ball comes to me, it comes to me. It doesn't feel like they're not rolling the players through the areas and get in, get out, because that's what makes the space. You get in, the ball doesn't come to you. Get out and get somewhere else. It opens the field up and makes the opens it up for the next player coming through again. But other times that we have had someone run past, they get the ball, and all of a sudden they got someone right in front of them. You think, well, why did you give that handball to them? There's a opposition coming right the other way. So it's some of the decision making in some of the situations. You just you scratch your head and go, what are you doing? It sort of sit there thinking, like last week, saying that we kick it long to Aaliyah and there are the defenders and sit on their head, then they're just going to pick it off. And that's exactly what they did.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing what confidence does within that group. Confidence in individual form, but also in the system. And I don't think it's a big tactical change. Like, I mean, if you go back to when Alan Richardson was coaching in 2016, when we were a highly attacking side, we'd play a lot of shootouts. We got flogged by some really good teams, but had some good wins. But we kicked, say, 25 goals against Brisbane and big games like that. 2017, we went too far the other way to try to be more competitive. We stopped getting flogged, but we couldn't score and our games were ugly. I don't think there's a big shift like that. It's just for whatever reason, we're trying to do the same thing, but there's a disconnect, there's a lack of trust or something that's clearly breaking down. Yes, there are injuries that have hurt, and we've seen with other clubs, the Giants have been hurt by injuries, West Coast have been hurt by injuries, Carlton as well. You can't play at your best when all your players are out, but it doesn't explain everything that you see. And we know that a lot of our new recruits are struggling for form. Certainly Butler and Hill are two of those that you would put very much at the top of the list. Some of the fringish players that you bring in from other clubs like McKernan and guys like that, you don't expect huge things from them, but that we haven't been able to find the diamonds in the rough necessarily out of all of that. So yeah, people can be quite fickle though. I would hope that people would hold their nerve. I mean, 6 weeks ago, everyone in the media was saying the masters of recruiting, and then 6 weeks later, you're hopeless at it. So I would hope that people would allow it to potentially correct itself. It's, you're never too far. I think Brett Ratton even said it after the Essendon game. It's never as bad or as good as it looks. Just as quickly as it disappears, it can come back. So they've got to find that secret, because I don't think they're trying to do too much differently. It's just broken for whatever reason. That the link or the connection is broken.
It's going to be. It is a real test of how much Brett Ratton has grown, I think, as a coach over the last decade. Because one of the big knocks, and you talk to Carlton fans now, and they're all saying, "Oh, I've seen this before. You have a period of really good football, and then it all falls apart for Brett Ratton." And I'm not sure. I don't necessarily subscribe to that, but that's how some Carlton fans feel. But back then, it almost felt like there wasn't a plan B. Like plan A was move the ball quickly, attack, and score. And when that doesn't work, they found it really hard to work out a secondary option or a third option even. And right now, plan A isn't working. So what is plan B? And we've got to kind of work out, where we're at as a team and what do we stand for? Who are we? And so this is a real test of Rats and his, I guess, the trust and respect that the squad has in him to see if he can get the most out of them again.
Yeah, it almost feels like for 2 weeks now we've pretty much been strangled by the opposition. They've given us a little bit of leeway and then just gone, nah, we're absolutely pinning you down, stopping you, not giving you anything to work with. It's a matter of finding a way out. And Rat's basically saying to him, we've got to get a new game plan. This is what we're going to change. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to make teams not come in the same way like virtually the 3 teams have beaten us this year have beaten us the same way. So we need to find a different way to play our game. And I don't know whether we're still similar game plan to last year and it hasn't really changed as much, and then it's just not working at the moment. But freeing the players up, giving them a little bit more, I guess, confidence in each other in the way of, if we can move the ball quickly, get it long, get it to our forwards, we can do it. Instead, just letting the opposition float back and pick us off every time, and that's where players lose that confidence kicking the ball. Where ball moves slowly, and they're thinking, "Well, I don't want to turn this ball over," and lose the confidence to kick, and all of a sudden they are turning the ball over. So it's just, yeah, we need to get them back to the point of going, we can do this. This is how we're going to do it. We need to move as one. That's basically it is. We can't have. There's been a couple of individuals out there doing it all, and we just can't rely on them week in and week out. They have a bad game, it's over before we know it. So
that's right, and we're getting,
yeah.
as you say, we're getting beaten the same way. I mean, we've had 3 beltings. It should have been 4 beltings. We got flogged in the other game as well. It just didn't reflect that way on the scoreboard. We haven't been able to create arm wrestles even in defeat. You've got to be able to make the side at least earn the victory against you. But I have heard that as well, Nick, from Carlton supporters about Brett Ratton, but they're effectively full of it if they look at the record of Brett Ratton over the tenure at Carlton. So
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, he took over a side that won the Wooden Spoon. The following year, they went from winning the Wooden Spoon to winning 10 games in his first year as coach, and they made the finals in his second year, made the finals in his third year, won a final in his fourth year, and lost a semi by 3 points, so almost played a prelim. Then the following year, they would have made the finals, but they lost to us twice. They just had a couple of bad losses at the end, and then they sacked him because Mick Malthouse came along. So I'm not sure there was ever a drop away night to think that way, then that's fine. But I guess we're going to try to find some votes out of that performance somehow. One name's pretty common amongst it, but I'll have a bit of a crack first. I gave one vote to Rowan Marshall. He didn't dominate, but he was competitive and worked hard, and I thought his efforts were important around the ball and showed how much we missed him. Certainly couldn't fault anything he put forward. I gave 2 votes to Jack Steele, another really strong game in the middle. I just need some support. And 3 votes because he got a bit of support here. I thought Seb Ross, who'd been down for a few weeks, had 31 possessions. He's tackled well. His clearance work was pretty good. He's not the perfect player, we know, Seb. His ball use can definitely improve. And but I think on a pretty bleak night, it'd be hard to be too critical of his performance by comparison to others. H, how did you play it?
Very similar. Once again, I find myself giving 1 to Jack Steele. Again, does what he does week in, week out. Virtually, I give him the 1 to start with, and then see how well he dominates, and then move him up the ladder a bit further each week. But yeah, I got him on 1 again. I gave 2 to Seb Ross. He one of the players who actually showed, I guess, a bit of movement. He actually tried moving the ball quickly. He tried getting it out of sticky situations. He did all right in the way of what was it, 6 clearances, and just tried to get the ball going, but yeah, just didn't have a lot of support. And I gave 3 to Rowan Marshall. I think maybe underselling him a little bit with the 1. I mean, 16 disposals, 23 hit outs, which is something we really missed. But on top of that, out of his 16 disposals, 13 were contested, 5 contested marks. So personally, is that a huge game? Just a bit more, kick the goal as well. So a bit more game time in him, and hopefully he's back to what we were seeing last year. He's a huge hole, as Nick has mentioned before, saying he's probably the key player to our structure, and it certainly showed on the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, same 3 for me. I just wanted to give an honourable mention to Jack Billings. Again, it wasn't his best game by any means. He didn't have a great game, but I thought he was someone that kept trying, especially in the forward half, trying to be creative. Out of a game when we kicked 5 goals, he had 3 goal assists and 440 meters gained. He was trying to be creative. He was trying things, and it didn't always work. In fact, it often didn't work. But at least he was trying that in a game where we severely lacked kind of creative,
especially given he tore the
players.
plantar fascia the week before.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But yeah, other than that, I mean, the same 3. It's pretty obvious. I gave 1 to Rowan Marshall. I think he was good. I think we know, like you said, H, we know how important he is to his team. He played his role. It certainly, I don't think he had a great game by any means. I thought he had a good game and he was solid. And he was still one of our best on a night when we didn't have a huge amount of contributors. But it just showed that even when he's not, playing at his best, and he's not 100%, and he's not, he's not his dominant self, that he's still able to have an impact, and how important he is to our structure. 2 to Jack Steele. Jack Steele just does Jack Steele things. Again, he doesn't have a great game, but he's probably still our best player. And Seb Ross was his best game for a long time, I thought. 500 meters gain, 6 clearances, played most of the game. I think mid 80% of the game he played, and was just very important. Just kept running. He was one of the guys that would win a hard ball and then spread out of a midfield that didn't spread and didn't run. He kept doing it all night, and you got to give him props. We know, like you said, Parker, he's not the perfect player. He's not the perfect midfielder, and he has some clear flaws. And I think at this stage of his career, we shouldn't expect anything more than that. But he had a pretty good game.
And it's interesting, and you're right. I mean, he cops a bit of criticism, Seb Ross, and a lot of players do. But there'd be 17 blokes he'd drop before him at the moment. I mean, there's a lot of people saying, I should never play again or never pick him again. And it's like, well, how's he stacking up with Brad Hill and Zach Jones and Brad Crouch and all of these blokes? I think he can walk off the ground with his head a bit higher than some of those guys can at present. So even though, some of the criticism is certainly granted at times with his ball use and things like that, but Yeah, hard to be too critical of him out of that. We do look ahead to Hawthorn in a moment, but we're going to go back to the nearly premiership era, I guess, of the era just prior to this one and speak to one of our 200 gamers in Sam Gilbert.
I reckon that's the hottest the footy's been all day, that moment. The Saints go forward, Revolt and Brown, Gilbert lurking, Maxwell getting back. Kept his head over at Maxwell. The handball forward, Schneider, can't quite break it. Gilbert, he's got it! They're in this now!
Our next guest on Unplugged, we've caught up to a lot of players from this era, but I was taken 33 in the 2005 draft, went on to play 208 games for the Saints, finished third in the best and fairest in a grand final year in 2010 and was an absolute star during those periods, the 8, 9, 10 period where St Kilda got so close to winning a flag. I represented Australia in the international rules as well, and having a kick with a couple of ex-Saints at Bond Beach in the Mornington Peninsula League as well. Sam Gilbert, thanks very much for your time.
Thanks for having me, boys.
Now, touching on, when you look back at your career overall, is it one where you sit there and think, 200 games, satisfied with the journey, or do you come back to those grand finals a little bit? Is there sort of an overriding feeling about the career where you're like, good, but could have been better in terms of those results? What's the feeling when you look back?
Yeah, I think definitely once you finish, you start thinking about less about your personal achievements, more about the team. And yeah, definitely the 9 and 10 grand finals definitely come up in your memories probably more than your positive or negative performances.
You grew up in Queensland, down south, obviously. It's sort of a bit of a AFL pocket, I guess. But what led you towards AFL over playing, say, rugby or union or anything else other way?
Yeah, it was pretty unusual because I did start a little bit late at 16, and my family, we always lived up at Terranora and Tweed Heads, and we moved to Kirra, right next to the AFL Oval, and it was just purely, I saw the boys training down there, and I wanted to get, I heard that they trained a little bit harder in the pre-season. I wanted to get fitter for rugby league, and I went down and had a couple of training sessions and went, you know what, this is a game I love, and I just couldn't have enjoyed it anymore, and just kind of quit league after about a month and went and played for the local Aussie rule side.
Sam, one of the knocks through your entire career, I guess, no one could knock your effort or your endeavour, but the I guess the kicking skills. How hard or difficult was it for you to pick that up coming in at such a late age?
Yeah, it was probably a little bit definitely a little bit difficult coming from probably no junior base in kicking to then 3 years later lucky enough to play Aussie rules. So yeah, it was definitely something that it took time to learn. Definitely felt like a lot better kick at the end of my career than the start, that's for sure.
How did you feel about footy in general in terms of your awareness of the AFL? You're obviously having a bit of a kick, but you debuted at the MCG against Carlton in 2006. Had you ever been there before? Had you had much experience sort of watching high-level football in the years prior to getting drafted?
I didn't. I was the anomaly a little bit where before I got drafted, I didn't know. I never actually been to a game. I never watched a game. I never watched a game of AFL before I got drafted. And when I got to the Saints, I actually I had to download literally the old days of computers where I had to literally print off all the players, tried to memorize the players before I got there because I didn't want anyone to know that I didn't know who anyone was.
Thinking of teammates and that sort of stuff. We're having a quick look at the draft class that you came in through. Now, the other ones who you came in with sort of didn't stick around for long. I think I saw Michael Ricks was there for 3 years, but did you find you attached to them more than the other ones who were already at the club or came in later? And when they left, how did you find that sort of transition?
Yeah, no doubt. The guys you get drafted with, you become closest with very quickly. And Phil Raymond, someone I got drafted with, and he only lasted 2 years. I still speak to today. So it's definitely, you definitely build a bond or connection with that initial group of guys. But I was lucky enough to have guys like David Armitage and Sean Dempster, Sam Fisher, just guys that I got to play with Jason Blake, Nick Dalsano, that I got to then continue to build that bond and that friendship that I can have till today.
Walk us through that period, because that must have been a real whirlwind from that 16-year-old kind of first picking up the footy to being drafted at 18, 19. What were those couple of years like? And when it came down to draft day, what were you expecting?
Yeah, look, I didn't even know that there was a draft until probably about a couple of months before. I never made a Queensland side, so I made the rep side, but I never made the actual. I made the actual side, and then I was pretty much that 18 year. I didn't make the Queensland under 18s, but then I played the Opens under 18, Opens Queensland, and from there everything just kind of went very, very quickly because I went pretty well at the Carnival in that higher division. So from there, I had clubs calling me that, and then all of a sudden I became a possibility to be drafted, and then you get pretty upskilled pretty quickly about what the draft is. And I was by the end I was following the Phantom drafts.
As well as the intercept marking, which you developed, you obviously had a very good sidestep, and your tackling was very good in defence as well. Now, you obviously look at a rugby background and think that does help. Everybody always talks in AFL about, this guy had a basketball background and that's why he's good in traffic. Did you feel that the skills you developed as a youngster did actually help you when you came into the AFL?
Yeah, 100%, especially tackling, chase down tackles, probably aggression around the ball. League's a great sport for that high contact feeling. So when I was lucky enough to come into the AFL system, tackling wasn't as much on the agenda as what it is that you see today. So early on to have that tackling ability definitely gave me an advantage over the other players.
Yeah, it came in on the back of a very successful side. Basically, they've been playing finals, preliminaries, and so it's going to be very hard to actually break into the team. But when it finally happened, how did that happen, and how did it feel?
So I was pretty lucky. Well, Ross Lyon came, and as soon as Ross got to the club, he definitely made my tenure there very, very easy. He was a very hard coach, but as a probably competitive kid, I knew what he wanted. So I gave me that edge to try my hardest and to really put pressure on, and then I got rewarded for that. So I was lucky enough to break into the side.
Looking back at that draft time and some of those family drafts and mock drafts that you mentioned earlier, there was a lot of talk about you playing fullback and potentially being the heir apparent to Maxi Hutchison at fullback. You had really good closing speed and obviously attack at the contest and that sort of stuff. But you end up being a really valuable kind of third man in defence, halfback flanker, running defender, etc. In a time where there wasn't a lot of those types of players. How did you feel? What was your best position at the time?
Definitely halfback. It's probably coming from a limited AFL background. Halfback is probably the most suited to those kind of players. Definitely, like I found playing up forward very difficult. So that's where also the league background kind of comes into a bit of an advantage where you're used to breaking the line. So when you pass and you're obviously going through the back line, which I was a backman in rugby league, you look to break the line. So when I was playing that third tall half back, when I had the ball, it was similar to like rugby league where you're in your line, you're attacking defence and you can break the line. So that came very naturally to me to play that way.
Through that 9-10 period, yourself and Sam Fisher across halfback were practically impassable. You were intercepting everything, rebounding. You were both getting 20 to 25 possessions a game and taking a stack of marks. Can you take us through your own confidence, but also the confidence within the team? A lot of people look at St Kilda now and feel that maybe in this current group they've lost a bit of trust or there's a little bit of a disconnect just at the moment. But that 09 team, I would imagine you were going to the footy every week thinking, it doesn't matter what situation presents itself. It doesn't matter where we find ourselves. We've got confidence we'll get out of this. We've got confidence we'll win. And we've got confidence that we'll play well individually.
Yeah, look, confidence is a beautiful thing. And if you could buy it, you would. It's very hard to get. And when you've got it, it makes footy a lot easier, no doubt. When you're confident, you play your best footy. And when you're not, footy becomes very, very hard and simple tasks become even harder. I think I was extremely lucky to have such a successful side which gave me that confidence. And yeah, Saints are probably not where they want to be right now, but hopefully they can pick up that confidence. It only takes a couple of weeks to get that confidence back, and they can use that as a driver for the rest of the season.
Sam, Parko just mentioned that relationship with Sammy Fisher in the back line, and it was almost like you two had a really good relationship connection on the field. What was it like off the field? Was that something that you worked on with Sam Fisher in terms of your connection and communication on the field?
No, not on the field. It was very natural, and off the field was very natural. Sam is a very giving person, and he always wants to help everyone around him. So from day one, made my life extremely easy. So I was lucky that Sam was so giving.
You say forward wasn't really a position for yourself. You were more a defender of that, but you found yourself drifting up there a few times every now and then. Did you kind of have a bit of a free rein to do that, or was there times where you're told, just get up there, sneak in, see what you can do for us?
Yes, different periods, yes, and other periods is more when we probably needed a bit of drive in that. I think my natural aspect was to probably hunt the ball and just kind of be a bit manic. So it was when we kind of needed something to happen instead of just being a traditional lead up forward. I kind of always just went to the ball and put pressure on and continued on with that kind of play. When I started, I didn't love forward. I didn't play a lot of forward. It's probably early on in my career. As you play the game longer, positions become more second nature, more natural, which I felt a lot more confidence playing forward by the end of my career than I did probably those first few years.
I know 09 was painful, but you spoke about swinging forward. The 2010 grand final, there were three big moves made at half time. Justin Kosicki goes into the ruck because Gardner's injured. We had Farron Ray tag Dane Swan, and you went forward and had a real impact in that second half. If you look at that game or those grand finals, is there a memory that sort of stands out? Is it one where, you put your head on the pillow at night and go, we had a massive crack? How do you reflect on those, 3 days, 09 and then twice in 2010?
I think about Tommy Hawkins hitting the post a few times because I saw that pretty up close. Yeah. That didn't make me too happy. You don't tend to think about you do think about your own performances a lot, and it's not always very positive about those games. I was lucky enough to kick a goal in the drawn grand final, which is a memory I'll always cherish. But just even making grand finals and being part of the parade and just being there on that day is a very special feeling that I'll always have.
You mentioned that goal that you kicked. I think there was about 7 minutes left. We were just heading into time on in the third quarter from memory. What was the feeling amongst the group at that time? Because obviously, the first half was difficult for us as a team, but then throughout that third quarter, I guess in the stands, we felt that we were a real shot. We were having a real red hot crack. And what was the feeling out on the ground in terms of that comeback?
Yeah, you definitely felt the momentum shift, and I think there was always that feeling that we lost the year before, which we knew how much that hurt. And I think that was a driving factor as well for a lot of players out there, which probably helped that arm wrestle to come back to the draw that you saw in the day.
And for yourself, do you feel like if it had been the extra time, do you feel like we had the momentum to take it that day?
I was cramped, a full body cramp at that stage, so I would have been no help.
Looking at the immediate aftermath, so obviously it got a bit difficult for us in 2011, which was probably psychologically a bit by what happened there. And then we had the sort of Scott Waters years. I do often ask this question. We are a bit of an uncensored, unfiltered sort of podcast. So what did you make of the the tenure immediately after 2010 and the Scott Waters period of 12-13?
It was hard. It was hard when you've had Ross Lyon and you had so much respect for Ross, and he's probably, to this day, one of my best coaches, personally, and on the field and off the field. Scott came in, probably wasn't exactly what we were used to. His coaching style was extremely different. So probably didn't help having a very black and white style kind of coaches kind of come in after. For me, I didn't have any, bad feelings towards Scotty. He was totally fine to myself. I don't think the team particularly played well underneath him, but that wasn't to say that he wasn't probably doing his best to kind of drive the performance. I think a lot of us were still probably pretty stuck up on having Ross there.
During that period, I'll just want to take you back a couple of years earlier, but during that period, when Ross came in and towards the end of the Grant Thomas era, I suppose, we were playing a lot of established players. There weren't a lot of young guys coming through, and we didn't have a lot of kind of rising stars, nominations through that period. But you were one of those in 2008. Was there a moment that it kind of clicked for you that you thought, I can be a really good AFL player?
There probably wasn't a moment. It was always a driving feeling that you want to be a very good AFL player. And I think the nature of the game, unfortunately, is you have really good years and you have really, really lean years. So, and you're seeing that with a lot of good players in the Saints at the moment that probably aren't playing as well as what you expect them to. So I was definitely felt that I could be a very good player early in my career.
Are there any players that you see walking towards you at the start of a game and you're rubbing hands together going, oh, here we go, here's a good day coming ahead? Or anyone you sort of thought, oh, no, I don't want to play on them today? Or the hardest and easiest opponents?
I didn't really man up, so it's a bit hard.
Later in your career, so you went from being a young emerging player in a very good team to being a senior player in a side that was struggling a little bit towards the end of your career. How did you adjust to that, taking that leadership role and actually playing a few different roles in the team? You would often go up on a wing, you'd play back, you'd sometimes play forward. You became a bit more of a utility sort of towards the end.
Yeah, look, it is what it is, and I definitely didn't have the same performances which I had at the start of my career, which I was probably a little bit personally disappointed with. I definitely tried my best to get those performances back, but like we spoke about, confidence is something you'd love to be able to walk into a store and buy. But at the same time, I loved playing those selfless roles. I got to see the side of the team that I probably wouldn't have got to see if I kind of was thinking I was sitting at the top of the tree. I definitely loved watching the younger players grow and helping them be better players on and off the field.
Personally, I mean, we all know that it's really hard to have a long career in professional sports, but personally, you had a lot of ups, but you also had a couple of kind of well-publicized downs, I guess, throughout your career, both on the field and off. How hard is it emotionally to kind of work your way through some of those periods? And did you find that it affected your form on weekends at times?
Yeah, look, it definitely something that's difficult to process when you're probably playing elite sport. Yeah, I think there's times that it definitely affected my performance, and there's other times it didn't. Unfortunately, you are who you're a product of your performances, and I wasn't where I would have liked to be. I still think that my performances were probably a positive influence on the team, but as far as being probably the dominant player on the field, I wouldn't have been that player. Off the field, those things happen, and that makes it's hard to talk about around the off-field issues, but they definitely had a negative impact on some of my performances. But at the same time, it's not the overall impact that the reason I became a selfless player by the end of my career. Unfortunately, that can only hang around for so long. And as good as my performances were, my average performances that I had through that middle period wasn't truly just because of those off-field incidents.
You finished up pretty early at 32 at the end of 2018. Did you feel like you had anything left yourself? And was the opportunity to go home to the Gold Coast, did that ever arise, or was there a chance of it ever happening?
I think I definitely wanted to be a one club player. When I finished up, I definitely was open to talking to other clubs. I didn't personally have a manager at the time. It wasn't something that particularly thought I needed. I had a few short conversations with clubs, but none of that eventuated very fast. So I was very happy to call it a day by the time I was finished with the Saints.
In terms of your post-football career, you've been having a kick around sort of locally now with Bond Beach with a couple of ex-Saints. What's that like, obviously going back of quite a few levels and the highest level that you played at, but running around with a lot of blokes you're familiar with, like David Armitage. I actually called a game where you guys played Red Hill a couple of weeks ago, and I think you had 35, Armo had about 50, and Trent Dennis-Lane kicked 6 in the first half. Must be good sort of running around with a couple of blokes you know pretty well and just enjoying your footy.
Yeah, it's great. So much fun. There's no pressure. You go to training. There's a good group of guys. Armo's one of my good mates. Trent's a good mate as well. You get to go down, have a kick. I love playing footy. I don't want to stop playing footy. So, yes, obviously not playing AFL, but I definitely want to keep having a kick at any level I can until I can't anymore.
Last one from me, mate. But how's the body these days? Obviously, that your playing style meant that you copped a few knocks and you had some soft tissue injuries through the journey. But how's the body feeling now playing at the lower leagues?
Yeah, look, surprisingly good. Maybe I didn't go hard enough because it's pulled up pretty well.
Just one moment, whether it be on the field, off the field, anything. What's one moment you look back and go that just defines what it was to be at the club in the time you were there?
One moment. I always probably think about pre-season as a whole. I think those 9, 10 pre-seasons, you definitely had that feeling through that whole pre-season we're going to be a good side that I'll always remember.
Yeah, I think we have fond memories of those days and look forward to that too. Sam, I think that the journey to be someone that turns to footy at 15 or 16 in Queensland, a non-football state, who gets drafted in the middle of the draft, who goes on to play 200 games, finish third in the best and fairest, play well in grand finals for the team. I think I read a stat that only 3% of AFL footballers ever play 200 games. So to be in that group based on that journey, I think is a tremendous effort. And congratulations on all you did with the club. And you were a wonderful player. And hopefully I'll call plenty more matches where you tear it up with Bond Beach over the year.
Just be gentle with my kicking, yeah?
Thanks for joining us, mate.
Too easy, lads.
There's been some patches in the game that we showed a bit, but really we're off the pace at the moment and we need to get going. And Ryder will come in next week, everything going to plan, and Webster will be back as well. So we'll start to strengthen. Geary won't be far away, Frawley as well, but really as a team, we can't convert as well as we can, and the opposition is still scoring. And the strength of ours last year was our stoppages, which is not working. So we've got a fair bit of work to do, and today was. The game was over really at three-quarter time, and the margin, out to 54 points again. So we need to make sure that we keep grinding and finding a way. But as we know, seasons can turn, and we'll have an opportunity next week, but we need to really get going as a group. So, we'll see you at Marvel.
Sam Gilbert there, and also the thoughts of Brett Ratton after the round 6 defeat to Port Adelaide. Hawthorn next up. The Hawks have been a pretty solid side over the course of the year. They've been a bit limited at times in terms of their absolute star power, but they make you earn it. They lost to Geelong by 5 points. They lost to Fremantle in Perth by 2 goals. They came from 7 goals down to beat Essendon in round 1 by a point. They lost to Richmond by about 4 goals and were okay that day. And obviously the win over Adelaide at the weekend with young Kajitsky, Justin Kajitsky's cousin, kicking 5 goals in that game. So if you look at us, a side that struggles to score, Hawthorn are a side that defends quite well and have been solid. They don't kick massive scores generally, but they'll be a bit of a challenge for us because they're a well-drilled, well-disciplined, well-structured team, a little bit limited in terms of the power. They're not going to rip you apart like Richmond or Port would, but they can certainly be dangerous. So, Nick, how are you assessing that matchup?
Really interesting. I mean, you're right, and that Hawthorn have lacked personnel. They've lacked that kind of star power. They've lacked, the level of skill I think required to be a really competitive unit against the best. But somehow they manage to do it week after week. They're competitive, and they take it right up to you. They keep running, they keep trying, they keep working, and they're winning some games. I don't think anyone expected a whole lot out of them this season, but they're remaining competitive. And it's going to be a tough game. I think we all looked at the fixture at the start of the year and saw this as a game that, coming off West Coast, Port, Richmond, you've got to beat Hawthorn. And I mean, that's still true, although the situation is a bit different to what we would have expected going into round 1. It's a must-win game for us. I think there's some things that the guys can look at from last week from Hawthorn's game, and Max King is one. He's got to go into this game thinking that if Riley Thilthorpe can go and kick 5 in his first game against this Hawthorn defence, then what can I do? I'm just as athletic, if not more. I'm stronger, I'm more powerful, I'm more dynamic. This is a game that I can really aim, a game that I can target this weekend to really rip apart. Looking at our last couple of games, we spoke earlier about the way that they tend to drop their heads, and a consistent thing coming out of those last couple of games is first quarter inaccuracy. We go into quarter time having one field position, having one possessions, having one contest, having one contested marks, having one inside 50s, and yet we go into quarter time down or even when we should be multiple goals up, and then they drop their heads, and you wonder how much that inaccuracy is hurting the confidence going into that first break. And if we can kick a few in the first quarter, and if Max can really come out firing and snag a couple and take a couple of grabs and kick a couple of goals, then that can do wonders for the confidence. And he should be looking at this game going, this is a game that I'm going to target, that I want to really stake my claim, that I really want to have an impact on.
And even if we do get a good start, you look at the way Hawthorn have won their games this year, they've come from a fair way down both times. So it's, do we say it's that Clarko factor? Is you never rule out a Clarko team. They just watching their game on the weekend, I was in and out of the room and had it on the background, and Adelaide to kick 10 straight in the second quarter, and the Hawthorn not walk off with their heads down. It's, you're sort of thinking they should think that they're probably not going to win this game, because you don't turn around and win a game after a team's kicked 10 straight on you.
It's only happened 20 times in AFL history, 20 times in 150 odd years.
So it's quite a effort to then turn around and say, no, we're still going to win this. We're still well and truly in this game, and so we can't let them basically put our heads down and go, okay, we've got ahead and that's enough. They're a team we're going to have to fight out right to the end, despite the fact that I could not believe when the odds came. I opened and we're 150, and I thought that's not right, surely. The way they're playing, the way we're playing, and I thought, no, they've got the wrong way round.
You compare the games, and you compare the games. I mean, they lost to Richmond by 4 goals. We lost to Richmond by 14. They beat Essendon by a point. We lost to Essendon by 75. There's a lot of reasons why they should be favourites. I think people look at our reputation or whatever it may be, but Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, I don't think it'll be smooth sailing. I get the feeling that we might make not a statement of sorts, but we might deliver something on Saturday and just keep things alive a little bit. But certainly have been wrong before. Selection's interesting. So Mackenzie out, they accepted the 1-game ban, which they probably shouldn't have. His opponent wasn't hurt and played out the rest of the game. Mackenzie would have been on the fringe anyway. Brad Hill's touch and go with the injury that saw him subbed out of the game. Ben Long's got to stop belting blokes and being undisciplined and giving away free kicks and 50-metre penalties. No wonder he's been dropped a few times. They've got to pick Vital. I know he keeps playing as a sub and keeps getting in. The sub doesn't always play, but he seems to have every time he's been used in that role. So I've just got to pick him. And out of the VFL, Luke Dunstan had 500 possessions, I think, and Paddy Ryder was excellent. So it looks like Ryder will play. And you got the feeling that they were going to hold him back from an interstate trip and play him at home first up. So you'd think Ryder in. So it's Ryder in, Mackenzie out as a starting point. But then how they get Vital into the starting side, what they do around Webster potentially. So Webster for Mackenzie makes sense. Does Carlisle go out for Ryder? Maybe. He's been a little quieter in the last 2 weeks. So if they want to pick a second ruckman, maybe they just pick the second ruckman, and that's the role Carlisle's been playing. So he loses his place in the side, H.
I think Long has to go out. The last couple of weeks, undisciplined. It's just some of the things you look at going, what makes you think that that's the best thing to do for the team? A couple of times it feels like he's put his own ego ahead of the team and just like picking a fight with someone after a little scuffle and things like that, and giving that 50 away. And I mean, someone said, "Oh, it was standing up or something," but I was looking at the footage. I didn't see anything. I couldn't see anything that was coming in for it. I think he was just in there to pick a fight. Something has, I don't know, changed from last year. Last year we're looking and going, he's a first 22 every week, and he's gone back so far backwards at the moment that, I mean, geez, I wish he could refine the form that he did have last year, but it just doesn't look like it's going to happen at the minute. So I think possibly a few weeks back in the reserves, just to say, you're not guaranteed a spot. You need to earn it back. Actually, go back, show us that you can do the right thing, and earn your spot back. But yeah, I mean, as you're saying, you could, after Seb Ross, you could drop 17 players after last week, but it's, yeah, I mean, he'd probably be the first one I'd have on the chopping block to switch over. But I'm worrying about the drop in the Carlisle thing. It's a forward line. They've got a couple of talls, especially if you look at how Kaczynski played on the weekend. You want a good defender, then he's, I think maybe a good matchup for him. He's not that fast running off back, but he's the big defender who can hold down someone like that. So I don't know whether Long out of the back line and Carlisle stays in, and you see you bring in Webster and Ryder, and but same Vital as well. So I think maybe maybe we have to drop. I think his name came in last week. Joyce. He
potentially
showed a couple of things, but I don't know whether he's someone who's going to hold their spot for very long at all.
No, I think you're right there. I think Joyce goes out. I think Mackenzie's obviously out. I think Brad Hill goes out. I think you got to give him the week. He's clearly not right, and now word's coming out that he hasn't been right all year, and he's been carrying a bit of an ankle niggle the whole season. So why not? You don't have to give him the disrespect or whatever you want to call it of dropping him, but you can put it on the ankle and say, just get yourself right. Take the week, take a couple of weeks if you need it. Get your body right, get your head right, have a break, and come back refreshed and fit and firing, and come and show us what you can do. Ben Long, you can't pick him, surely you can't pick Ben Long at the moment. This has been happening all year, and I was a massive rap on Ben Long all through the off season. Best, like you said, best 22 player, 100% in the squad every week. You pick him because of the way that he attacks the ball, the way that he hits the contest. He delivers the ball pretty well. He can play in multiple positions. He's versatile. He's flexible. You can swing him forward if you need. He brings a whole lot of ability and I guess a slightly different skill set and tool set to almost anyone else on our list. But what he's shown us in the last month, you can't pick him on that, surely. You're right. He's undisciplined. He's unfocused. He's not showing any of the skill set that we want to see. He's aggressive, yes, but he's aggressive at all the wrong times and at all the wrong people. I think he's got to come out. You've got to put him in the middle at Sandy and play him for a month in the guts and say, win the ball. Stop attacking people. Win the ball and make that your first priority. Go and show us how you can do that, and then you're a chance to come back in the seniors. There's a couple of guys. Obviously, Ryder clearly comes in, and Rats, I think, alluded to that in his presser a couple of days ago when he said that Ryder coming in gives us so much flexibility with what Rowan Marshall gives us, and we know how important Marshall is to our structure when he's in the ruck. But to be able to switch them and move them forward, and you can have one sitting behind the ball if things get tough. Both of them can play forward and take a mark and kick a goal. It's so important, I think, to the way that we want to play to have both of them in the lineup. So he's the obvious one. I think you're right that Bytel has to play, and I think he's one of those guys now that at this situation, at this point of the season, you say to him, "You're in the team for the rest of the season, the rest of the year. You're going to play. Don't worry. Don't drop your head if you have a 10-possession game. If you have a 2-possession game, you're in the team for the foreseeable future. Go out there and show us what you can do. This is your shot, and just go and do your thing, because we know we can play, but he needs that continuity. He needs that experience at senior level, and getting him 20 minutes one week and 40 minutes another week, and then dropping him for a week, sending him back to Sandy. That's not going to help him. He needs continuity. He needs a month or 6 weeks or 12 weeks at senior level to just get himself right at senior level, play against men continually, and make sure mentally and emotionally and physically he understands what it takes to play week after week after week in senior footy, because he's got the talent, he's got all the attributes to do it. He's just got to go out and do it and have the shot to do it. And there's no better time than now to let him do it. And the other one is Tommy Highmore, I think. Strange one, didn't play last week for Sandy, and I think he missed out on a really valuable experience to get some more experience. Because he didn't play seniors, he didn't play at Sandy, and I think he should have played seniors. I'm not sure. I don't understand why they played Joyce over Highmore. The other one is Ryan Burns, and he had a pretty serious hamstring injury during the off-season and pre-season. So it's good to see him come back at such a high level in the twos. I think he's probably another week or two away from the ones, but one to keep an eye on. He had 25 on the weekend for Sandy in a game that we looked good for half the game, and then again something just stopped and they fell apart in the second half. But he was one that kept running, and he's got good pace, he's got good size, he's strong, he's powerful, he's got good skills, can kick both sides of the body, can handball both sides of the body, and he's got that kind of youthful vigor that we're lacking at the moment. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him in the ones in a couple of weeks if things don't start improving.
Yeah, I think Burns a good shout. Good to have him back available. And we've spoken about it a lot, the upside of picking, if you've got guys on the table, and with all due respect to them, if you've got McKenzie and Dunstan and Bytel's got genuine future upside. Like Dunstan and McKenzie, they might be in good, solid form, but you know what you'll get from them, with all due respect to those players, and that's not saying they should never play again by any means, but if it comes down to those types of calls, Bytel clearly has a future, and you've clearly got to start to nurture that future underneath the quality players that you have within the group at the moment. There are times last year where Max King was getting 5 or 6 possessions a game, but you pick him because he's got a future, and you need to nurture that, and eventually those rewards come. You've got to do the same with Bytel. And the Ben Long one, I thought if ever the penny was going to drop with a player, he got suspended in a final last year and cost us at a really, really important stage. The club appealed that suspension twice. You would think that if ever you're going to go home and look in the mirror and go, geez, I've got to be more careful going forward. I've missed a chance to play in a final. In a lot of ways, by not playing in that final, I've hurt our chances of making a prelim. I don't get it. I mean, it's like bush footy where he just runs in and says, I'll just take a scalp here. I'll just smack this bloke in the head on the way through. I won't get the ball, but I'll clean him up. And it's like, well, there are cameras everywhere, mate. There are umpires all over the ground. There'll be free kicks off the ball. There'll be reports. It's extraordinary lack of discipline. And I don't know how you snap that out of someone that's got a few things he does quite well. He can get off the ground. He's courageous. He takes good marks. He just makes dumb decisions like that, and often does that with ball in hand as well. So,
and in terrible positions as well. You look at inside 50 or just on the halfback flank and giving away possession and giving away the ball in really, really important positions on the ground where they're going to get a scoring opportunity.
Yeah, that's right. Like he takes intercept marks and turns it over, and it's frustrating. But he's a guy that does have upside. He's just, I don't know, something between the ears isn't quite there at the moment. But it's frustrating. And I agree on Highmore and yes, playing interstate, but none of the emergencies played for Sandringham. I think to hold them all over was not ideal. But yeah, they've just got to make sure they get the matchups right. So how they use Battle again to try to get the best out of him. Be careful with guys like Kajitsky. From a Hawthorn point of view, it looks like Gunston will play his first game for the year this week, but Burgoyne's touch and go. He got subbed out against Adelaide. They're still missing a couple of others that like Will Day and obviously Sicily, and I think Segler's injured as well. But so the injury list are probably comparable between the two clubs right now, given Ryder will be available. So we'd be missing Gresham, Hanbury, Geary. Frawley will play twos this week. Patton's out for the year, and maybe Hill. We'll find out. But yeah, well, that's about where it's at in a selection sense. But hugely important game. If they can get to 3 and 4, they play the Gold Coast the week after, which is not an easy game. We saw that every time we go to Metricon, we win by a point. So it's clearly not an easy venue. They've just belted, or within a kick, 4 points, 2 points, 1 point, 3 points. But obviously they've just belted Sydney. So we've got to get to that game at 3 and 4 and then reassess, and then. Who knows if you can square that up before you play Geelong and maybe get things moving a little bit, but that's a long way away at the moment. So from 2 and 4, Hawthorn is the assignment. Try to get through that and see where it leaves us. But boys, hopefully we can stop talking about frustrations and dropping blokes and at least get a bit of reprieve and they can do the right thing by us all this week. But enjoy it for those that are heading along, and we'll reconvene in a week's time and hopefully we're still alive, because if we lose, we probably aren't.
It's very, very, very much a crucial game this week, and it'd be nice to come back with a positive attitude next week.